Hello there and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Cassie. I'm over on the Rabbit Hole Designs blog today with a snarky Valentine's card or anti-Valentine's card. And I'm going to use the Sassy anti-Valentine stamp set along with the Spell It stencil. I absolutely adore this stencil. I will say when I first got it I was like, okay, this is cool. But I have used the heck out of this. If you've watched any of my videos, this has become one of my favorite stencils just simply because you can spell just about anything on the front of a card. And so today I've decided I'm going to do Cupid. I thought that would be fun. And so I've just got a piece of pink cardstock that I have in my stash. I have this cut down to, I'm not even sure what size. I just know it's much smaller than an A2 size card. And I even trim it down later a little bit more. I've grabbed out some Heffy Doodle tape and I'm just trimming that down because I want to isolate each letter that I need to use. And I have a blending brush along with some Distress Oxide and the color Seedless Preserves. And I'm going to pull off a couple of those pieces of the Post-it tape or the Heffy Doodle tape, and then I'm going to move my stencil up and down. You notice I started as in the middle as I could get it. I figured that would be the easiest way for me to spell out my word and try and keep everything as lined up as possible, but it's not perfect, and that's okay. It doesn't need to be. I did tape down my paper with a little bit of washi tape, and that way it keeps that piece of paper just secure and not moving as I do my stenciling. I cleaned off the letter just using a little bit of cleaner along with a microfiber cloth, and I'll do this each time after I'm done with a letter. And now that my first letter is done, I can start at the top or I can start at the bottom or in the middle if I really want to, but I just started at the top and then I'm going to work my way down with each of the letters. So we are going on to the U. And then we will go on to the C next, and then we'll work our way over to the I and the D. I'm telling you, this is such a fun thing to do, and you could use other mediums with it. I have just found that ink blending is the easiest. You could absolutely do some sort of Nouveau glimmer paste, but the thing you'd have to keep in mind is that, that does take some time to dry, and if you're having to isolate each letter and then, of course, kind of overlap, you could end up with a mess if you don't wait long enough for things to dry. So this is why, because I'm a lazy crafter, I have chosen to just do some ink blending. Although I really do want to do something with glimmer paste. I just think that would be so pretty. All right, we're on to our very last letter. And you notice I do have a bit of space on the side there. But this is where I've decided after I clean off my stencil again that I am going to trim that down. And I'll put that into my Tim Holtz tonic trimmer, and then I'll just trim off enough of it. I'm trying to, I'll end up flipping it from side to side. I'm trying to keep it kind of squared. Squared isn't the right word, but I want it to be as centered as possible on my card base. So I am flipping it and trying to make sure that I have, still a rectangle, and that when I put that on my card base, there isn't going to be some weird border all around it where one side is bigger than the other. I thought about using some Seedless Preserved Distress Oxide spray, but then I thought, no, let's do some contrast. So I grabbed out my Distress Oxide, or it wasn't Distress Oxide, it's Distress Paint in the color Black Soot. I put a little bit onto a stamp block with a little bit of water, and then I'm just going to take a paintbrush and splatter that. You definitely want to make sure that you put this probably inside of a splatter box or something, because this paint is permanent when it dries, and if it lands on things you don't want it to and you don't catch it, it's on there. So that's what it looks like all close up. I thought that splatter just really added a little something. My card base is going to be some whitewash cardstock from Brutus Monroe. It's 100-pound cardstock, so it's not like the heaviest weight. And I just scored that at 4 1/4 inches. And this is what I was talking about. I wanted it to have a decent border around it so that it was, it didn't look weird on the card. I'm going to move on to stamping my sentiment. So I used my anti-static powder bag on one portion of some black cardstock. That's Raven cardstock. And then I inked up the wrong stamp. I do this a lot. I just grab one thinking I'm grabbing the right one, and I grab the wrong one. So I inked it up, and I'm not sure why I decided that just wasn't going to work, but I stamped it again using VersaMark ink, and then I'm going to cover that with some Alabaster embossing powder, and my sentiment reads, "Cupid is stupid." I just thought that would be perfect for Cupid, that Cupid background that I did. Obviously, this is an anti-Valentine's card. Sometimes there are people that just don't really want to celebrate Valentine's Day, and I totally get that. I'm happily married and I still think that this is hilarious. So, you could send this to just about anybody and have a good time with it. I've pulled out a couple more sentiments, and if you see me rub it on my hand, that is purely out of habit. I typically do that with brand new stamps, just to condition them a little bit. I've already stamped this set before, so rubbing it on my hand is completely unnecessary. But what that does is the oils in your hand will condition that stamp just a little bit so that it's easier to stamp. But since these were already stamped a bunch of times, I don't need to do that. It's just, like I said, purely out of habit. I'm going to stamp the Cupid down using that same Distress Oxide ink, Seedless Preserves, and then I'm going to stamp one more sentiment that just says Love Stinks. So we've got Fat, Naked, Dangerous, Love Stinks. I just think that's hilarious on the inside of the card. And I didn't center it. I don't know why. I just decided it would be kind of fun to be able to write more on that lower right-hand side. I'm going to pop up my panel because this is a fairly plain card. So I'm going to use some of that ARTEZA foam tape. This is pretty new to me. I'm going to keep using it, trying it out. And I will take that foam tape and I'm going to put that all going up the whole way of the card because I want to make sure that this is pretty sturdy. And then I'll peel off all of the release paper on my foam tape. And then I'll tack this down to the front of my card. And this is where I'll put in the Cupid is Stupid. I didn't cut that down yet because I wasn't sure exactly how big I wanted it. I do cut another small piece of foam and I'm going to put that right onto my card front. This is the easiest way I could think to be able to put that sentiment down. But I will use some liquid glue because obviously that's going to overlap the Cupid panel. And then I'll line that up on my glass mat and stick that down. And then I'll flip that over and trim off the excess. And I thought about adding a little more, but I thought, no, this is good. We're good here. And so no sequins, no nouveau drops. We're just going to leave it at that. And that's going to finish off our card. So as I said, I am over on the Rabbit Hole Designs blog. So I'll have that linked down below if you'd like to go check that out. If you liked this card, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you so much for stopping by.